Now, after doing the construction and the working of photoelectric effect, let us study, student, the first observation of photoelectric effect, that is a frequency graph. Now students, we have already done photoelectric effect experiment. Now is the time to study some observation on the photoelectric effect. And here are the list of observations that we are going to study in this chapter of photoelectric effect. The very first observation that we are going to see is the effect of frequency on photoelectric current. The next effect that we are going to see is effect of intensity on photoelectric current. Once again, we have effect of potential difference on photoelectric current. And the list does not end over here, students. Here are few more observations that we are going to study. That is effect of frequency on stopping potential and effect of frequency on kinetic energy maximum. Now students, I know there are few terms that you don't know in this whole list. But do not worry, one by one we are going to study each things in detail. So the first thing that we are going to study is the effect of frequency on photoelectric current. Students, we know that this is our experimental setup that we performed. We are applying a suitable potential difference, and in this case we are giving a light source which has a constant intensity. That means intensity is not varying, but frequency is varying. That means I'm going on increasing the frequency of light. Now what happens when I increase the frequency of light? Suppose if my frequency is less than the threshold frequency, students, will the photoelectric emission take place? No. So there is no emission until and unless we reach the threshold frequency. So if frequency is less than threshold frequency, no current will flow and there will be no photoelectric effect which will take place. So can I say photoelectric current will be zero if the frequency is less than the threshold frequency? So if I give a light, now in this case, which has a frequency which is greater than the threshold frequency, or if the frequency reaches the threshold frequency, then the current begin to flow. And after a while, the current flows constantly. So to see that, we'll see this graph. Now we plot a graph in which we have frequency and photoelectric current, where frequency is on the x-axis and photoelectric current is on the y-axis. Since frequency is independent and current is dependent. Now we take a case when the frequency is less than the threshold frequency. That means no photo emission will take place. In this case, you can see 1 and 2, where 1 and 2 indicates that the frequency is less than the threshold frequency. So will there be photoelectric current, students? No, no photoelectric current. The current will start flowing from 3. Guess why? It will start flowing from 3 only because the threshold frequency is at 3. When we see threshold frequency is overcome, the current will start flowing from 3 and it reaches a stable value, a constant value, which is called as saturation current. You can see this is the case of the ideal graph, but practically when we draw the same, we get a graph something like this. You can see in this case also the current reaches a stable value. So when the frequency is less than threshold frequency, the current will not flow. When frequency surpasses the threshold frequency, the current starts flowing and reaches a stable value, as we all can see. So currents become saturated. Now the question arises, sir, why does current reaches a stable value? Student, current reaches a stable value only because there is a limitation to the number of electrons which can reach the collector, and that depends on the plate. So if there are limited number of electrons only which can flow, so can I say current will also be limited? That is why current reaches a fixed value, a stable value, which is also called as saturation value of current. So even if you go on increasing the frequency, the current does not further increase, the current reaches a stable value. So what can we conclude from this graph? We conclude that the photoelectrons are emitted from a given surface only when the frequency is greater than the threshold frequency, and that, students, is very much evident from the graph. From this module, we learned the effect of frequency on photoelectric current. That means if frequency is greater than the threshold frequency, then only the current will start flowing. Thank you.